Risk management in human resources. The definition of human resources. Human resources are the people who make up the workforce of an organization, business sector, or economy. The definition of human resources management. Human resources management is the process of organizing, managing, and lead the project team who are assigned and responsibilities for completing the project. Definition of human resources in risk management. Often defined as a bad outcome in the future in the organization. As an example of human resources in risk management is violating laws, abusing employees, harming the environment, and loss of key talent. Human resources roles in managing risk. There are 8 kinds of it. First of all is the critical skill shortage, insurance and data, ethics and behavior, intellectual property loss or violation, mergers and acquisitions, supply chain risk, succession planning, and compliance and regulation. Critical skill shortage. HR main role as placing right people in right place with the skills that are needed to compete. It can give impact on organization now and future. The novel workforce and health skill is the biggest concern need to be get attention. The insurance and data. HR is often responsibility for organizing benefit and make sure insurance benefits are correctly in place. If the human resources make the data wrong, such as salaries incorrectly disclosed, and its liability will be burned to employer. In other words, the blame for any mishaps for human resources. In ethics and behavior, ethical behavior is important to maintain reputation. The number one risk is an ethical breach. Unethical behavior is most difficult to recover in terms of brand damage. Intellectual property loss or violation. When organization deals with customer data, then losing it or having it frauded by staff is something to be avoided at all costs. This is because it can damage brands and lead to huge fines. M&A, which is mergers and acquisition risk. Mergers and acquisition come with all sorts of trouble, issues like making sure new staff feel cared for and engaged, sorting out training and induction programs, and dealing with any mediation needs must also be taken into consideration. Integration challenge must be tackled head-on, and risk paying for the firm twice in redundancy payouts, recruitment drives, or even, in extreme cases, employee tribunals. Succession planning. Human resources plays an critical role in leadership development and should be investing time and money in the leadership pipeline of the future. Not having a future leadership plan in place can cause share prices to plummet and even leave organization. Human resources important are divided into two, which is people are source of risk and people are important in handling risk. Compliance and regulation. Human resources has a responsibility to work with compliance team to make sure employees are aware of the potential risks such as bribery. So human resources responsibility to provide training programs to give adequate information on compliance issues. Supply chain risks. Supply chain risks, which the companies are faced to make possibilities for agency managers to make more power to realize and challenge against unexpected happenings. Human resources play a role to provide training and person in charge in order to control the financial organization in order to reduce wasting resources. We move to people are source of risk, which is the shortage of employees, people doing sloppy work, and employee refusing to take an additional responsibility, or a key employee leaving 2 months after completion of a 1 year training program, which is the example of people are source of risk. People are important in handling risk, which is people using their ingenuity to solve unexpected problems, employees going the extra mile for the good of the organization, a key employee redesigning her own job to avoid unnecessary delays in getting work done, or an employee persuading a talented friend to apply for a position in the business.
Now, we're moving on to applying risk management to human resources. When developing a risk management plan to our HR activities, there are a number of areas to focus on. These generalities will get you started, but it is very important that all organizations identify and evaluate the risks unique to their own organization. First HR activities is compensation and benefit, which mean any kind of benefit that the worker will receive in case there are bad thing happen or they did something good for company. Potential risk is financial abuse. Financial abuse, where the worker did not getting any compensation or benefits that have should be their rights. Potential consideration that can be made is by investigating who has signing authority, how many signatures are required, and are there checks and balances. Second is hiring. The potential risk is discriminatory practices, hiring unsuitable and unsafe candidates, and wrongful hiring. And the potential consideration that can be made is, was a complete screening completed on potential applicants? Were provisional human rights law observed? Is there a set probationary period? Were promises made to the candidates that cannot be honored? Did the employee sign off on the policies and contract of employment before being hired? Next, the third HR activity that could be applied by risk management is occupational safety and health, and the potential risk area is environmental and personal injury or death. Potential consideration that can be made is, do we provide safe working conditions and do we conduct safety checks regularly? Do we provide adequate training for staff? Do we ensure the use of appropriate clothing and safety equipment? Do we have adequate policies, procedures, and committee in place? And next is employee conduct, and the potential risk is compensation, reputation in the community, and the property. And the potential consideration is, do we have clearly written position description for all positions? Do we follow up when the parameters of the job description are not respected? Do we provide truth orientation and training? And do we provide an employee handbook? Last but not least is exiting employee, and the potential risk is abuse and reputation in community. And the potential consideration that can be made in exiting employee are, do we retrieve organizational information and equipment that dismisses employee use? Do we ensure that all access codes, passwords are deactivated? Do we conduct an exit interview? And last, do we record layout time and vacation balances? Next is the risk management process. Risk management is a cycle. That means that it is not something that gets checked off to-do list, but it is a continuous activity. And the very first step is to identify the risk. Ask yourself what can go wrong. Every activity of an organization poses a risk, so brainstorm and document the risk. Consider both the general risk and the risk specific to your organization. Risk can be abuse, that is either one-time or ongoing, personal injury, medical, environmental, property, financial, and reputation. Next step is to assess. Assess the risk. If you have done a thorough job of identifying risks, you may end up with a long list. The next step is to assess each of the risks based on the likelihood or frequency of the risk occurring. And second is the severity of the consequences. Then, developing strategies for managing risks. Consider the most appropriate risk management strategies for each identified risk. First is avoidance. Stop providing the service or doing the activity because it's too risky. Then, acceptance. Some risky activities are central to the mission of an organization, and an organization will choose to accept the risk. Third is modification. Change the activity to reduce the likelihood of the risk occurring or reduce the severity of the consequences. Fourth is transfer or sharing. Purchase insurance or transfer the risk to another organization through signing a contractual agreement. Next is implementing. When you have decided which risk management strategies will be the most effective and affordable for your organization, practically outline the steps and who is responsible for each step in the risk management plan. Last process is to monitor. Consider the following questions and document any changes to the plan. Is your plan working? Have your risks changed? Have you expanded or reduced your programs and services? Any changes or updates required? Are staff and volunteers following the risk management plan? Last but not least, who is involved in the risk management process? Risk management is a large and important undertaking. There must be a commitment from the board to commit the financial and human resources. In a larger organization, a risk committee, team, or department may be formed to handle the risk management process. In smaller and medium organizations, the responsibility for developing and implementing a risk management process will likely fall on the executive director. However, paid staff, volunteers, and potentially clients and other stakeholders will be very helpful partners in identifying risks and developing effective strategy to deal with the risk. Once the management process is in place, everyone in the organization has a role to play, from identifying risks to following policies and procedures to completing forms and reports.